Panama and business tonight. This is a NetWerQ
I'm liking this
with the
NetWerQ sentence, or this NetWerQ thing. I'm liking it.
And we're going to talk about this new progressive pride flag. And we've got Eddie Marti Krieg with us tonight. Very excited.
Excited to be here.
And Dr. Ty Hauser.
Woohoo! Go
Very
Ty.
excited. It's going to be fun.
I'm excited.
We're going to do, as they once upon a time said in the olden days, all the news that's fit to print, except digitally. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 7 p.m. Thursday, February 11th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. The world's first live daily queer evening news show. Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is a live, unedited LGBTQ evening news show. So whatever happens, you're going to see it. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ community from South Florida, America, and across our world. I'm your Queer News Tonight anchor, Al Ferguson, and tonight, first up, let's welcome anchor Dr. Ty Hauser. He is an associate professor of English and Humanities at Broward College. Additionally, he teaches for extended periods of time in international colleges in China, India, Spain, and Bolivia. He also serves as our progressive college professor host on Happening Out Television Network's discussion and debate show, Gay Town Hall. It's live every Thursday night and tonight at 8 p.m. Good evening, Ty.
Greetings.
And next, let's welcome anchor Eddie Marti Krieg. He is a lifelong community organizer and a human rights advocate. He currently serves as the field and community organizer for Safeguarding American Values for Everyone, South Florida's longest serving LGBTQ rights advocacy organizations. Good evening, Eddie.
Hey, Al. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a good evening. So tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is very diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, February 11th. Let's begin by doing something a little lighter. We're queering up entertainment. A Wizard of Oz remake is happening, and Twitter users have some thoughts. Time to dust off those ruby slippers, as a new version of The Wizard of Oz is in the works. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Nicole Castle has signed on to direct a new adaptation of L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz for New Line Cinema. The story has, of course, been adapted for the screen several times before, most notably as the 1939 classic starring Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale. The Wizard of Oz hasn't exactly been untouched properties in the 82 years since Garland's Dorothy flew over the rainbow. Baum's characters have been reprised on screen in 1985's Return to Oz and 2013's Oz the Great and Powerful, as well as on Broadway in the musicals The Wiz and Wicked. And because New Line's parent Warner Brothers Pictures owns the rights of the 1939 film, the upcoming adaptation will apparently be the first to reference trademarked elements from that version, including the ruby slippers. After news of the remake broke this week, many on social media took it as a sobering reminder that, yes, nothing is ever sacred in Hollywood. Much of the LGBTQ response was, well, negative. Hashtag No to New Oz trended on Twitter. One sentiment on Facebook was common when one person wrote, quote, "I had to check my calendar to make sure it wasn't April 1st. An April Fool's joke."
Well, I certainly would follow suit in saying nothing is sacred, but I definitely have been complaining for years now that Hollywood has no new ideas and they keep going back and remaking the same things over and over again. I hope it's good. I have my doubts. But Al, did you know that before the Judy Garland, there was a silent film? And I think you starred in it. Wasn't that right?
Nice.
No?
Nice, right? Right, Eddie?
Well,
Sure.
you know, on that note, I like a good remake, and so let it speak for itself. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, we'll stick to the classic.
Did you say you like a good remake? Really?
That's right.
A good remake? Actually, Ty beat me to the joke because I'm sure I saw him as one of the Munchkins in 1939. At the
thought
end
I
of the day,
recognized them.
at the end of the day, look, Wicked is one of the best remakes of almost 90 years.
Huge
So
fan.
let's hope that it has those kind of legs, and it's absolutely fantastic.
That's right. Maybe we'll get some new music out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We can hope. Okay, next we will queer up gay culture. 90 photos of iconic Imperiled LA gay club Precinct. Downtown LA's iconic Precinct is the latest queer space to ask for help via crowdsourcing to help it dig itself out of debt that has accumulated almost a year due to being forced to close during COVID-19. Husbands Brian McIntyre and Thor Stevens opened Precinct in 2015, a few weeks after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the historic Oberfeld versus Hodges case that same-sex couples had the right to marry. It was the first downtown Los Angeles gay bar to open in nearly 2 decades. The watering hole is known for its police theme, hence the name Precinct, and attracts an alternative queer crowd, a refreshing change of pace to some people looking for an alternative to the West Hollywood scene. At Queer News Tonight, it reminded us to look at the footprint of our own gay nightlife, how it has been an integral part of our queer culture and history. We show you some of the pictures that created the tapestry of Precinct. McIntyre wrote on the Precinct GoFundMe page, quote, "Precinct is not just a bar or a restaurant or a dance club. It represents family, love, community, just as much as it is Thor's legacy to the downtown queer family," end quote. The goal is to raise $250,000. After the campaign was launched on Wednesday, supporters already have donated more than $26,000. Queer News Tonight encourages you to visit the Precinct's GoFundMe page for more information.
Gosh, yeah, I wish them well. I know it's been a very tough time for many businesses, especially within the hospitality industry. And it sounds like with the communities coming together to help an iconic space stay open. So I wish them all the best.
Well, you know, we're sitting here in what we fondly call the gayest place on planet Earth, and this could be our future here in our own backyard. COVID has made no LGBTQ small business not vulnerable. So it's very, very important that we pay attention, because we could wake up one day and our gay cultural community could be gone. And that's an example of what could happen in downtown Los Angeles, the second largest city in the United States. And that's the only new bar that had opened in 2 decades, Precinct.
Yeah, I'll echo what you both said. Queer spaces are important spaces, and I hope that we manage to come together as a community to save those spaces, because we need them.
That's right. So we continue with Queer Up Gay Culture. Bi Man documents Grindr cruising in new film, There Is No I in Threesome. It's good to know someone else feels our pain. Meet Ollie Lux, the bisexual polyamorous director of the new HBO documentary, There's No I in Threesome. The film arrives on HBO Max starting today. There Is No I in Threesome documents Ollie's exploration of his bisexual polyamorous identity alongside his girlfriend Zoe. Just before the two get married, they decide to open up their relationship in hopes of expanding their sexual horizons. Of course, things get a bit complicated for the couple, as the flood of new attention that they face creates no shortages of distractions and raises a few questions about their feelings for each other. Ollie and Zoe chat about their newfound sexual conquests. Ollie also documents a rather awkward Grindr date in which his male companion had some mixed feelings about being filmed for a documentary. HBO seems to want to keep up with Netflix on who's the gayest?
Eddie, I'm curious, are you the I in this documentary title?
Well, apparently there is no I.
There is no I. All right, that's right. It's interesting to me. First off, I'm sure I haven't seen the documentary. It launches today, but it's interesting to me that we're getting this kind of content. Broadcasting platforms like HBO Max and Netflix, etc., are chancing so much more, both in scripted television and in documentary, aimed at our community. And there is nothing but outstanding thumbs up for that, because whether you like it or not is really not the point. The point is that we have allies in the traditional media markets that are saying, wait, we're going to expand what we provide to the entire American community, including LGBT.
I do like to insert myself into a lot of different situations, but I'm not sure I would insert myself into that particular one. That being said, I'm going to agree with you, Al, but I think I want to see more of the backstory. What has happened before they got to this point? Like, how solid is their relationship? And why are they opening it up now, right before they get married? Yeah. So I'm interested in that part of the story, and perhaps they'll answer that question for me.
In case, by the way, just one footnote, in case you did not see Queer News Tonight last night, we reported Mozilla reporting that Grindr, in their opinion, was actually dangerous in their data security issues. So make sure if you're in Grindr, you're paying very close attention to the exposure that you might have there in privacy. Next, we're going to queer up the USA. This is an interesting story. Mary Trump has a dire prediction about her cousins, Ivanka and Donald Jr. Watch this.
By the way, how do you think this all affects Donald Trump Jr.'s and Ivanka's dreams of being President Trump, the Kennedys of the right? What do you think? Is it going to impact them?
You had to go there, didn't you? Well,
you're from the same family. I'm just curious. What do you think?
No,
Sorry.
I don't want people to know that. Let's see. I think it's over. I think it's completely over because, and they have their father to thank for that. The insurrection was a bridge too far. Donnie for sure was totally implicated in it. And if there's any justice, he will be indicted at some point as well. We have all of this information coming out that Ivanka and Jared, allegedly employees of the federal government, have made in excess of $600 million through their grift over the last couple of years. So I think that the fact that they think that there's any chance for them to turn the corner or rehabilitate their prospects is just insane.
Wow. Donald Trump's estranged niece, Mary Trump, did not hold back when asked about whether her cousins could ever rehabilitate themselves politically after their father's dramatic departure from office. Speaking to SiriusXM radio host Dean Obeidallah, Trump predicted, quote, "I think it's over. I think it's completely over, and they have their father to thank for that," end quote. Both Don Jr. and Ivanka are purported to be considering runs for public office. Ivanka, who recently relocated to Eddie's neck of the woods in Miami, is rumored to be eyeing Marco Rubio's seat in the U.S. Senate. Trump said, quote, "The insurrection was a bridge too far, and as for Donald Jr., he for sure is totally implicated in inciting the deadly insurrection on the Capitol." Finally, Mary Trump added, "We have all of this information coming out now that Ivanka and Jared, allegedly employees of the federal government, have made in excess of $600 million through their grift over the last couple of years," end quote. Adding that if any of her cousins think they have a shot at a future in politics, they are insane.
Well, they are insane regardless of their thinking there. But I just absolutely love in this story is Mary Trump refers to him as Donnie, that diminutive, infantile Donnie. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I never see another Trump in elected office again, it would be too soon for me. I just don't think after the past 4 years and what we knew of him, he shouldn't have been elected to begin with. But once he got elected and the way he closed out of office through leading this insurrection, he belongs nowhere in an elected office. And I hope that he gets convicted, because another form of presidency out of him would be very dangerous to our republic.
I congratulate Dean Obeidallah. It was a real coup. I don't think Mary Trump was going to comment on these things. She was going to focus on her uncle. But very smart of him to add, because after this impeachment trial, the real future in the Trump organization is not going to be Donald. Right. It's going to be Donald Jr. and Ivanka. And of course, we're all petrified here in the gayest place on planet Earth that our future could include Trumps. Very scary.
Very scary indeed. Next, we'll queer up drag culture. Watch this 6-year-old spontaneously take the stage at a drag show and flawlessly perform This Is Me. Watch this.
And I hear that you have performed before. And what song did you do, Aiden?
This Is Me.
This Is Me from The Greatest Showman? Well, Aiden, now I know you're not necessarily a drag queen or anything, but so Aiden, do you know how to lip sync?
Well, yeah, basically you just listen to the music and just...
You do, like they do on RuPaul's Drag Race, right? We are going to give you an opportunity to lip sync for your life. All right, and here's the difference, Aiden. Not only are you going to get to lip sync, but you're also going to have some backup dancers. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, in her debut, Miss Suki Mary.
Well, we're going to continue to watch the video, but of course we're not daring to take on the music rights of This Is Me. But this 6-minute piece was quite amazing. 6-year-old Aiden is a fan, of course, of RuPaul's Drag Race and The Greatest Showman. But when he took the stage at Orlando's Hamburger Mary's at the end of the drag show for a surprise lip sync of This Is Me, little Aiden taught the audience why they called the performers a queen. Aiden's flawless rendition brought down the house. The Orlando Hamburger Mary's franchise held the normal Sunday show. The restaurant posted on Instagram when the little drag race fans' parents introduced him and explained why he wanted to come to see the show. The cast brought the little guy up on stage and helped him to get his official drag name, Suki Mary. One guest at the Sunday brunch said, "Coming from a family that is not so supportive and growing up only dreaming I could step inside of a place such as Hamburger Mary's, this is breathtaking. Thank you to everyone who made this night so special for that boy. His parents are amazing for being supportive and loving their child as he is." End quote. And sorry, Ty was going to be doing the story.
Absolutely no one could tell that story better than me, but you did a good job. This kid slays. If you get a chance to watch it, you have to. He is fantastic, and I'm glad that they all got together and performed with him.
That's awesome. I love to see kids dance and have fun, and it just lightens all of our hearts. As someone was quoted, I think many of us grew up in environments where just having fun and being a kid and dancing like this wasn't necessarily encouraged, especially for those of us that are queer, where we were told we were being too feminine for wanting to sing and dance. So it's really beautiful to see just a kid having fun and everyone around him just celebrating him just being a kid.
This is brand new. Only a few thousand people at this hour have seen this video, so there's not haters yet. I expect that we're going to see that, and there's going to be a negative response of a 6-year-old being in a Hamburger Mary's and performing drag, etc. It's just like the storybook hours in libraries. This is not a sexual situation at all. And both of his parents were present, and his parents said this was a fantastic moment that they wanted to give him. So a thumbs up for everyone involved in this.
Absolutely.
And congratulations, Orlando's Hamburger Mary, for bringing it to our attention.
That's right. And speaking of haters, let's queer up trans rights. Governor says transgender athletes will destroy women's sports. Watch this.
Would you sign that, and if you're not willing to comment, what are your thoughts on Well, that bill came in part as a result of an executive order from President Biden, one of a number of executive orders that came out initially when he became inaugurated. And let me just say, I will say that particular executive order is a tremendous overreach of the federal government into the states. I will say that. I'll also say that I do believe that transgenders participating in women's sports will destroy women's sports. It will ruin the opportunity for girls to earn scholarships. It will put a glass ceiling back over women that hasn't been there, and sometimes I think it's bad for women and for women's sports.
Republican Tennessee Governor Bill Lee said this week that transgender girls should be banned from playing on middle and high school team sports, or they will, quote, destroy women's sports, end quote. Lee said, and I quote, "It will ruin the opportunity for girls to earn scholarships. It will put a glass ceiling back over women that hasn't been there in some time. I think it's bad for women and for women's sports," end quote. Lee's comments come as Tennessee Republicans began advancing a proposal this week requiring student athletes to prove that the student's sex matches the student's original birth certificate in order to participate in public school sports. If a birth certificate is unavailable, then the parents must provide another form of evidence, quote, indicating the student's sex at the time of birth, end quote. Tennessee is one of a dozen states with lawmakers backing restrictions on athletics and gender-conforming healthcare for trans minors this year. The proposals come as a growing number of state high school athletic associations in the U.S. have enabled transgender athletes to play on teams based on their gender identity. And the NAA has transgender inclusive guidelines for all of its member schools. The White House and President Biden has made it clear they will not stand for this trans discrimination, which will likely lead to the courts.
Yeah, it's going to wind up in the courts, but it's one of those things. This is the right continuing to do what the right does, which is try and make us afraid. What we're really talking about here is a very small number of people who deserve the equal rights and the equal protections of everyone.
And why are they doing that? To make it a wedge issue. I just remind you, in 2000 and 2004, the Republicans made gay, LGBTQ, but mostly gay, the wedge issue in those two election cycles. They don't do that anymore. The Republicans are not making gay the wedge issue. They're making trans the wedge issue. And they think that they can focus on this extreme minority in LGBTQ, because in overall numbers it is very small, but using it as a wedge to create votes and to raise money. It is deplorable. It is deplorable, and it's just a wedge issue that the entire LGBTQ community needs to stand up against.
Absolutely, Al. And really, it's once again the Republican Party, sadly, showing that it's lost its ability to lead or that it has any good policy initiatives, and instead, all it can do is utilize divisive issues to drum up their base. But really, they failed governance for the first 8 years of the Bush administration, and then they failed governance again during these past 4 years, and now we are in the worst pandemic of all of our lifetimes, and the best that they can come up with is attacking kids who are going through, I mean, probably one of the toughest periods of their lives. It's absolutely unacceptable, and I really wish that Republicans would use their time better than attacking kids in high school and middle school. Unacceptable.
Very, very well said.
Well said.
That is our queer headlines for today. Let's catch up next on the LGBTQ news, as Eddie has said, surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies. Tonight we report on the devastating effect that coronavirus is having on the American and worldwide LGBTQ community in total cases and deaths. Tonight we report that more than 1.9 million LGBTQ Americans have contracted COVID-19, and more than 33,000 LGBTQ Americans have died from coronavirus. As of today, more than 44 million from our total community have been vaccinated. So let's queer up Quarantine Quickies. This is a story. QAnon's latest loony conspiracy. Did you know that COVID-19 vaccines turn people gay?
Oh, wow.
I didn't either.
I would tell my parents.
QAnon supporters are adding to their baseless conspiracy theories the idea that people receiving COVID-19 vaccines, quote, increases the probability of them identifying as a homosexual or transgender at a later stage, end quote. In a series of tweets, reporter Cheyenne Sardarisade posted screenshots from the right-wing chats of an encrypted messaging platform called Telegram, where many QAnon conspirators have been communicating since being kicked off of mainstream platforms like Twitter and YouTube. The images show the circulation of the disturbing myth that LGBTQ plus people are not born this way, but rather created through vaccination. One of the official QAnon posts said, quote, let's assume being LGBTQ plus is genetic for a minute. Since homosexuals, by and large, don't procreate their own children, then their own genetics typically are not being passed forward, end quote. One post reads, since that is against the continuation of life, then homosexuality can't be a dominant gene. It must be recessive. Thank you, doctor. I have many homosexual friends, in continuing the quote, that have said that they have known they were different since they were little kids, end quote. The rant finishes by saying, quote, when is your earliest memory? 4 years old? You've already received 50 vaccines by then in 2020. Truly, if it were genetic, then the rate should be decreasing, but it's increasing, indicating something is in their environment, and that is pushing the direction, end quote. According to the author, these two QAnon accounts have over 180,000 followers and 56,000 followers respectively, making them some of the most popular QAnon influences on Telegram. At Queer News Tonight, we feel obliged to advise, in reality, vaccines prevent deadly and harmful diseases in humans and are essential to the reopening of the United States after nearly a year in quarantine due to the pandemic. They do not turn people autistic or gay or transgendered.
I mean, I'm gobsmacked here. What? How does this even come to light? But I will tell you that if you want to know if you're gay, I have a serum I can insert in you, and you can figure out whether or not you're gay.
I was gonna say along those lines, I have friends who say they're gay through injection, but I don't think it's the kind of vaccination that these QAnon folks are referring to.
You gay boys, you. You know, when I was reading this story and this craziness of QAnon, I was thinking of that crazy congressman from Georgia. Can't you see this coming out of her mouth? And once you visualize that, you can see every other crazy thing that's going to come out of her mouth.
Boy.
And once you get to that point, then you can dismiss her and them forever. Well, that is our COVID-19 news for tonight. Next, we report that Happening Out Television Network helps support our LGBTQ community. An example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here and supporting that partnership. The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's totally live. We encourage you to tune in, and our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
My name is Doug Padgett, Executive Director of Vote Common Good, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible.
Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our hosts and guests stay at this LGBTQ ally partner. We encourage you to stay here when you're visiting South Florida.
Well, at Queer News Tonight, we are proud to have our Thursday night business professional segment we are calling NetWerQ with a Q. You do that snap so well, Ty. Where we will highlight and network live with local LGBTQ business leaders, individuals, and organizations from around South Florida. Tonight's segment features diversity coach and author Diego Tomasino. Born in Argentina, he began his career in the financial consulting industry and is now an executive coach specialized in business diversity, the founder of CoachMap, and is a regional director of Casson and Associates.
He is currently developing the business diversity area for the Convive Panama Foundation through the expansion of the Pride Connection Network, as well as an active member of the Global Shapers World Economic Forum, promoting various projects in favor of gender equality and rights in the region.
Recently, he published the book Come Out, based on personal experience as an honest and audacious guide that aims to empower and confront the new generation of leaders and members of organizations, encouraging them to think outside of the mold that society has created for years.
So let's please welcome diversity coach and author of Come Out, Diego Tomasino, to NetWerQ here on Queer News Tonight. Good evening, Diego.
Thank you all. Good evening. How are you doing?
Very well. Well, first off, let's talk about your book. Let's start there. I have a copy of it here with me. Come Out. It's in Spanish. You can get it at Amazon. Tell us a little bit about the book and what does it focus on and what's the message behind it?
Okay, I think that the book is about like how we build inclusive and diversity environment in the companies. In this book, I take the best practices of multinational corporations and try to like take them to Latin America and to small and medium corporations, because I feel that it's complicated and it's something that we don't talk about in the corporation. And I think that, as I say in the book, it's difficult that we have to keep on coming out every time that we change a job, to our family, to our different boss. And that situation is like very, it takes your energy. It takes your energy, and I wanted to create a guide for the people, the young people that enter the organizations, and also for leaders, because this is aiming for leaders, and it takes like coaching practices in how to incorporate and lead the teams in a diverse environment.
We're always excited here at Queer News Tonight when we can talk about our community outside of the bar environment. It's easy in LGBT to talk about our drag queens and entertainment. And that's what's exciting about the conversation with you tonight. Born in Argentina, lived extensively in Panama. Now you're here in Miami. Do you see, from a business standpoint, the coaching that you do, the corporate embracement of trying to get businesses and corporations to understand specific needs for coming out, as you've just illustrated from your book, do you see a difference in Latin America versus in the United States and here in Florida?
Definitely. I've been like living for 9 years in Panama, and I had the opportunity to also to travel in Central America and other countries of South America. And you see that this is already, it's still a taboo. It's complicated to come out, and how companies deal with LGBT people in the corporation is something that you don't talk about sometimes, most of the time. And whereas in the States or in Europe, it's something that is more like on a daily basis, and you have it like you have politics and benefits for all employees. But in Latin America, that doesn't happen. You always have to start like inventing stories and lying to your employee and creating things that you did on the weekend because you don't want to share it with your team. And that takes a lot of energy from employees. And it's something that corporations are not doing anything. So I think that they needed a guide to do that and to keep building more diverse and inclusive environment.
I understand your point in terms of Central Latin America, South America, in terms of that come out over and over again. It's ignored, or you don't talk about it. They've got a ways to go. How does that translate into the Latino community in Miami and Dade County? Do you see the same kinds of problems in the Latino community in South Florida?
Yes, I think that it may be like less complicated than in other countries from Latin America, but still you find some places that discriminate for being Latino, for being black, for being different from the normal stuff. I hate using that word, but it's something that you see on a daily basis. So, and it happened to me also, because when I went to Panama, or sometimes when I have meetings with clients here in the US or other countries, I have to, sometimes I don't feel like that they have the right to say that I'm married with a man, because it makes me weird. It's a complicated moment how to deal that. So I don't want other people to go through that experience, because it happened to me many times. And this is looking for that not happening anymore. So that's to say, why, if I'm like a gay activist, I'm open, why I have to go through this every time, and why I don't feel like empowered, to do that every time.
Eddie, I'm curious. You're from Cuba, and you were actually adopted because your Cuban parents rejected you when you came to the United States. What is your reaction living in South Florida and Latino similar to what we're hearing here from Diego in terms of the Latin community and corporate embracement, et cetera? Is your experience similar?
Yeah, Al, I think, and you're right, I was kicked out after coming out. I definitely feel like there's a lot of room for growth and improvement in how we embrace not only the members of our own families, but also when you translate that into the corporate world, how corporations are investing in diversity. And really, when they don't, it shows, because it stifles creativity. People don't want to stay there working for much longer. And they'll go somewhere else where there's benefits for them and their partner, and where they work in a culture where who they are isn't something that's looked down upon, where the person that they love isn't a topic of gossip. And so I really applaud Diego's efforts in this book, and I encourage everyone to read it. And I really hope that moving forward, we will lead our countries, our companies, and our families from a space of love and acceptance around sexual orientation.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Diego, I wanted to ask you about this Pride Connection Network. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Okay, Pride Connection is a community of companies that are out. You see, and it's like a network. It started in Mexico, but it's now in most of the countries of Latin America, and we try to get corporations there to show their pride. So this is like a network where these companies help doing the Pride parade, or also share their good practices between other companies. And this is also one to create space for employees to see that if they work for these companies, they are not going to be discriminated by anything. So this is one of the it's a little bit of the soul of Pride Connection, to create corporations that already come out and want to share their pride with their employees and with society too.
And this Pride Connection alliance is based here in Miami or abroad somewhere?
No, here in Miami it's not, but there are some other like similar institutions, like for example LGBT chambers that you can find in other countries too. There's a similar network in Europe. It's called NetWerQ. But Pride Connection is mostly focused in Latin America.
And Diego, last question. Somebody, you own a small business, an intermediate-sized business, whatever. How do they get in touch with you? They want some advice, some coaching, some best practices development in their business enterprise. How do they get in touch?
Yeah, of course. They can find me in my website, diegotomasino.com, or my Instagram, Diego Tomasino, or they can find the book in Amazon. And I'm very reachable. I try to respond most of the messages. I have a lot of messages, for example, for people, for young kids, and also mothers who want to help their kids. And those I think are most rewarding message that I've been getting since the book came out.
Excellent. Well, go to Amazon and
Definitely.
Diego Tomasino's book, Come Out.
Here it is.
Quite interesting in the transition and intersexuality between the Latino community in Central South America, South Florida, and the LGBTQ community. It'll be quite interesting. Diego, thank you for being with us tonight on NetWerQ here at Queer News Tonight.
Thank you for coming here.
All right. Well, we are going to finally, tonight, we're going to do a quick story about queering up South Florida. South Florida is embracing a new version of a progressive rainbow pride flag. Watch this.
It's the most iconic global symbol of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer pride and the fight for equality for all. But the historic rainbow flag is now under question. Should it be replaced with this? The new progressive pride flag, hailed as a more inclusive symbol with black and brown stripes, pink, white, and light blue, representing the most marginalized within the LGBTQ community, people of color, and transgender. The flag has already gone up in Hollywood and Miami Beach. Now the Miami-Dade County LGBTQ Advisory Board is looking to follow.
I was born in this world as a Negro. That's what it says on my birth certificate. So I've gone from listening to my mother say colored, that's what she was called, to being a Negro, and then being black, African American, and then recognizing that I am a Black American. So as I look at this issue about the flag, this is a progression of where we are now.
The pride flag was not supposed to be a representation of communities. The pride flag is about a moment of empowerment. It's about a moment of self-realization. It's the visibility of that one moment when we say, oh my God, I'm a lesbian, or oh my God, I'm trans or gay.
Well, the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council was the first in South Florida to consider use of a new version of the rainbow flag. Miami Beach has now followed suit. The so-called progressive rainbow flag adds an arrow with stripes of black and brown representing people of color, and then pink, light blue, and white representing the trans community. The Miami-Dade County LGBT Advisory Board has voted now 9-2 in favor of replacing the rainbow flag with the new progressive flag at the county building during Pride Month, and they've made this recommendation. This recommendation will now go to the county commission for consideration. There is a fight brewing, however, to replace the pride flag with something more inclusive, but some in Miami-Dade County LGBTQ's community don't want it flying at County Hall. It's the most iconic global symbol of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer pride, and the fight for equality for all. But the historic rainbow flag is now facing a question of whether it should be replaced with a new progressive pride flag, hailed as more inclusive in a symbol representing black, brown, pink, white, and light blue stripes, representing the most marginalized within the LGBTQ community, people of color and transgender. Queer News Tonight will follow this story closely, as what is happening in South Florida here could have ramifications on the entire LGBTQ community in the United States and worldwide.
You know, it's interesting. I'm not a vexillologist, so I can't really tell you anything about the pride flag. But I'd kind of like to know what the colors represent before I start to think about whether or not we should be adding colors. But I have a sense, at least from my students, that some of them are in the position where they are very progressive and they want to see it added. And I think the rest of them just don't care.
Yeah, you know, I like both flags, and I also think that we have big policy issues that our community ought to stay focused on. I also think that, as a matter of perspective, I don't personally see it as replacing the pride flag, because the pride flag is the pride flag. I see it as a progressive flag. So it's a separate flag that highlights some of the most marginalized members of our community, the trans community and people of color. And as we're seeing throughout some states, there's a lot of anti-trans hateful policies and legislations that are popping up everywhere. So if we happen to take the progressive flag as our banner for however long we choose it to highlight the attacks on our trans community and the injustices that our people of color are facing, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't see it as replacing the pride flag. The pride flag is the pride flag. It's not going anywhere. Nothing will change that. So I think I like them both.
You know, I can see flying both of the flags, but I don't think that that's the key issue here, because I think what might happen is if the county commission in Miami-Dade County accepts this recommendation, this 9-2 recommendation, the flag that they would fly during Pride Month is the progressive flag only. So it may have that interference. The other thing that I think we must discuss a lot is, why does the black and the brown and the trans community feel that the rainbow flag does not represent them in the LGBTQ community? And I highly suspect that is because they do not feel represented among us, that the either overt or passive discrimination is going on in our own community. And that's where our conversation on the flag and what we do should really start, to find out why black, brown, and trans feel this way, as opposed to just changing a flag. That doesn't solve any problems at all. Well, finally, we end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. Today's silly or news that entertains the LGBTQ community. And tonight's a good big finish. First up, in the big finish, Republican Michigan State Senator says the Capitol riot, it's staged. It was a hoax. Wow, watch this.
He's being recorded. The conversation goes on for more than an hour, but this portion is raising eyebrows.
What about the DC thing? I was there. So, that's what?
That wasn't Trump people.
Not at all.
That's been a hoax from day one. That was all pre-arranged.
He then sent out an apology statement last night saying he regretted the words he chose and insensitive comments. You see, in addition to the hoax remarks, he talks about spanking the governor in budget talks and suggests he thought of challenging her to a fist fight. Fast forward to this morning in the Michigan Senate. Shirky is on a hot mic and talking to the lieutenant governor.
I frankly don't take back any of the points.
Sorry, not sorry.
Any thoughts, anybody?
Gosh, well, I mean, once again, it highlights the thinking of the GOP-Q, really, because that's what they've become, unfortunately and sadly, because it would be great to have 2 or 3 or more major parties discussing policy ideas that are going to help revolutionize our country and lead us into the next century. Instead, we're talking about hoax, we're talking about the former president leading an insurrection, we're talking about, quite frankly, and I apologize for the use, idiots, who want to call things hoax when they're completely misaligned with reality.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize, idiots. And idiot is defined, if you open up Webster's dictionary, is the president of the Michigan State Senate. That's who said this. So therefore Webster says, oh, you're an idiot. I think it's fascinating. We're in day 3 of an amazing presentation by the House team on impeachment. And this guy says, no, that was all a hoax. It was all a hoax.
Toxic masculinity and heteronormativity.
Yeah,
those are the 2 problems.
All right, well, in the big finish, have you heard? A woman who styled her hair with Gorilla Glue is reportedly considering a lawsuit against Gorilla Glue after a hospital visit. Here she is.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Gorilla Glue is not the biggest problem here.
Yeah. My goodness, I just don't even, Gorilla Glue.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess my only comment is I'm opening Webster's dictionary again. And wait, we got that joke. All right, finally, in the big finish, watching Elton John pretend to get a COVID vaccine will leave you ready to get pricked. Watch this.
Just kind of pretend that you're having the vaccine from a nurse.
Oh.
What was that, Elton?
That was me acting.
Okay, let's cut there.
And as you can see, I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay. Thanks, Elton. We'll let you know.
Oh, you did.
Oh, well.
Well, I love Elton, but you'd figure he'd be used to a prick by now. I can't believe he.
Oh!
Sorry, too much.
Too soon.
Too soon.
I wasn't even there. And I'm usually the one with the dick joke.
You know, this full commercial is actually very funny. This
is.
is really completely staged, and his comments, he couldn't have been any more terrible, which made it all the better. It's a great commercial. Go and watch the entire thing.
Yeah. Well, that is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing, ring the bell for updates, share this news. We are the only television live video news that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of anchors Dr. Ty Hauser and Eddie Marti Kring, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night, America.
See you soon.